this is happening at the same time that the Liberals, their communication frankly sucks.
The Liberal government is announcing their list of national interest projects, and it sounds like the only national interest Canada has under them is watching more jobs flow to the United States. I'm Jasmine Lane. Subscribe, like, follow, comment your thoughts down below, and share this video. We have a lot of fact-checking and myth-busting to get through today. Doug Ford has said that people who can't find jobs, you just need to look harder, guys. Duh. Mark Carney gave one of the weirdest speeches of all time that actually tells us a lot about him and their plans and our country.
But I'm going to get right down to business. I know this room didn't take the summer off, so it's not really back to school, but September always has that feel. And let's face it, we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis. The global trading system has been upended. Supply chains have been destroyed. McDavid is unsigned. This is not a transition. This is a rupture. As in times like these, you have to draw back in. Remember what you have. Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins. We got to draw on those strengths. We got to draw on those values. And Connor, if there's anything that we can do in the upcoming budget, we're spending less, we're going to invest more, so we can bring that cup back to Canada.
Look, I get it. He was speaking to his caucus at their fancy little retreat over in Alberta. And politicians crack jokes all the time in situations like this, especially. But the thing about this one that strikes me as so bizarre is that he knew it was being filmed. He knew Canadians would see it. And still, in the middle of announcing the crisis, global trade collapsing, all things he didn't have to mention, by the way, that are very serious if he was planning to crack jokes, he decides to pivot to hockey jokes about Connor McDavid. Bro, for real? There's been over 100,000 jobs lost in just 2 months. And you're cracking jokes comparing the crisis that we're in to Connor McDavid not being signed. Who cares? That's not levity. That's not somebody fun. That is not leadership. That's a guy who is so disconnected, so out of touch that he thinks throwing in some Canadian hockey reference is going to smooth over the fact that people can't pay rent, can't pay food, find work, or that Parliament has barely even sat. This year, everything about it was just so smug, so indifferent, and it shows you exactly what he thinks of the people actually living the results of this manufactured crisis put in place by Liberal policies.
In investment, there would be a freeze. There has been. You can really see that in the numbers. And there's inflation bubbling here, percolating, maybe is a better term. It's showing up, which is what we discussed. Maybe a little slower than we might have expected, but that's because a lot of companies tried to swallow the first round impact, I think maybe hoping it would get negotiated away. So what we've got now is two economies actually that are sliding, let's say not in recession probably, but sliding in that direction. The trajectory is not a positive one for both the U.S. and Canada. And so as a result, we're seeing it, labor market numbers, we're seeing it in consumption. Fundamentally, the backbone of the economy is weakening.
I did cut out a section there where he was essentially just alluding to the fact that Canadians have been staying home, that they've been buying Canadian, and how that has seriously helped us not go into a full recession. But he also said, the reason behind it is obviously not ideal. And I also think it's rather important to focus on the fact that the reason why all of that is a slight light at the end of the tunnel for our country's economy is that people are just staying home and they're just not buying American. And it's not because we have all of these massive new trading partners. It's not because our industries have been unleashed. It's not because investment is booming in the country. No, it's because the government created a campaign to make you scared of the United States, to physically remove American products from the shelves, which sends a terrible sign to anybody in the free market, by the way. It's not because the Liberal government is doing good. It's because they successfully manipulated you and told you to buy Canadian. That's what's saving us, nothing else.
You know the great thing about home building? It's Trump-proof. You can't claim that Donald Trump is to blame for housing that happens here, because he cannot put tariffs on housing that we keep in our own country. It is, by definition, a homegrown industry. So when we're facing a losing trade war with China, with the United States, and with others, why not build more here at home? Most of the materials that go in these homes are Canadian materials. We have the land, the labor, and the lumber. And there's no foreign government that can tariff the construction of a Canadian home. This should be the #1 priority. Get building here. Nobody can stop us from doing it. And that's why we're calling on the government to adopt our plan for a new home building boom right across this country by removing the taxes, the red tape, making this the fastest and easiest place to get approved to build a home that will be a wonderful refuge for young families starting out, and that will give big, powerful paychecks for our trades workers across this country.
And surprisingly, I am actually shocked by the Liberal government's latest announcement, because I was truly hoping that Mark Carney would prove me wrong. Not because I like the Liberals right now, but because my future, your future, our country depends on them proving all of us wrong. And that really didn't happen. But you know what? The more I've started to think about this, I don't know how I missed this before, but everything makes perfect sense to me. And I cannot wait to show you and share with you my thoughts on that, because it really, really lines up.
What we're hearing from our colleagues at Radio-Canada, the government is preparing to announce its first national interest projects. Our colleagues at Radio-Canada have learned that there are no oil pipelines included on that list for now. Didn't make the short list. Can you explain the thinking behind that?
Yeah, interesting timing as they gather here in Alberta, right? But evidently there is no proponent for the project. So Liberal sources told Radio-Canada, well, if nobody's sticking their hand up to build the thing, we can't approve it right now. They're insisting, though, that this is, temporary. An oil pipeline could make its way onto the list in the future. So could a gas pipeline, for instance.
We were all so unbelievably trapped by what is probably one of the most obvious things ever. And if you've already thought about this, be sure to let me know in the comments down below that you are way ahead of the thought game than I am. But Mark Carney says that Canada is open for business. Yeah, we're going to rapidly approve all this stuff thanks to Bill C-5. Oh, shoot, but there's no pipelines or any major energy infrastructure, actually, that's been submitted. And they positioned this as proof that, well, there's no proponents for the project. This is something that BC Premier David Eby actually said as well. Oh, well, there's no proponents for the project. So the reality here, though, is that while Bill C-5 can give the government temporary authority to bypass certain measures, nobody is going to spend millions on proposals and time that are guaranteed to fail under the current regulation. With Bill C-69 in place, dubbed the No More Pipelines Act, it makes approval nearly impossible, with endless assessments, moving goalposts, and activist vetoes at literally almost every single point. The Supreme Court called it unconstitutional, and yet the Liberal government clings to it. We have the tanker ban, Bill C-48, which shuts down Northern Gateway potential. It blocks BC coast routes as well, and then for some reason allows Saudi Arabia to park tankers and dock freely in Eastern Canada. That's a whole other story. But what really happened here was the illusion of choice, because now the Liberals will say, hey, no proponents came to the table. The office is open, but the inbox, it's just empty. If companies wanted pipelines, they could have applied. Heck, they still can. And on the surface, that sounds really fair, right? Nobody applied, so obviously nobody's interested. That helps them with that narrative. Case closed, except that the game is rigged. When you have all of that legislation against those industries and carbon caps, none of which was repealed, why would any company waste the headache, possibly billions, millions of dollars in paperwork, applying, designing, when the rules make it impossible? And that right there was the trick, because Mark Carney says, well, hey, we have this new legislation where we can bypass all of those other red tape regulations, knowing full well that nobody would apply under those conditions. Then points to this empty inbox saying, well, see, if the market doesn't want oil, guess we got to do net zero, climate change. Yeah. That isn't the market speaking, though. That's literally a trap. Bill C-5 is not a pathway for projects. It is a smokescreen for government control and government sabotage. They designed the system to fail and will continue to gaslight Canadians into thinking that pipelines just aren't the future. And that's leadership. No, it's not. That's fraud.
CCUS technologies will play an essential part in this transition, presenting a tremendous opportunity for clean growth, long-term competitiveness.
And then right on cue, Mark Carney's Minister of Energy and Critical Minerals comes out with this. Oh, yeah, we're giving $5.8 million for carbon capture leadership. Yeah, this is going to transition our future into a cataclysmic converter of economy. It's going to be really good, guys. I promise. Like, number one, that's literally couch change, and that's PR. It's not policy. They're starving out real projects that work and smoke screening you by sprinkling grant money on boutique startups that don't exist. And to all of the people drinking some haterade over there, nobody wants to build pipelines, see? No, nobody wants to build pipelines under rules designed to kill them. Actually, if you remove the choke points, you'll watch that the inbox will fill, especially because Canada has some of the lowest carbon emitting oil reserves that exist on the globe, and they're very wanted. If you don't believe me, watch yesterday's video perhaps. And for people who say our economy doesn't rely on pipelines, pipelines are not just a fetish. Let's make that really clear. They're how you move a world-class resource to market safely and cheaply. Without them, we sell at a discount and export jobs to the United States. I thought that was the whole problem. Well, Jasmine, there's more than just pipelines to be an energy and economic superpower. Yeah, there sure is. And we should totally do those too. You want to know what would be cool? If we could also fund those, maybe fund higher paying jobs, fund a greater economy, fund a better quality of life so that people want to live here and want to invest here. And we stop benching just a couple $100 billion for the next number of generations while betting on grant-dependent pilot projects that have proven to fail and not be a replacement every single time throughout history that they are implemented in a nation. Take a look at Germany. And you know, this post by Mark Carney really got me too. He writes, in Edmonton with colleagues this week for our national caucus meeting, we're focused on the work ahead, obviously written by ChatGPT Dash, to build major projects and empower Canadians with safer neighborhoods, high-paying careers, and a stronger economy. Really?
And what do you expect to find in this budget? Well, there'll be investment in the military, for example. We're not opposed to that because we think that Canada must do more in the context of the redefinition of world geopolitics. But there are also election promises which will cost billions, which will be part of that deficit. There's also the scrapping of counter tariffs to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. That's all part of the backdrop of the budget. Now, will the government find a way to show people that it's able to fund infrastructure projects by claiming it's not a spending but an investment? We'll see what Harry Potter comes up with this time.
Yeah, you know, it turns out there is a lot of dark magic involved with what Mark Carney is proposing here, such as high-paying careers. Like what exactly? For who? Grant writers? Consultants? Not builders, not rig hands, certainly. If jobs depend on subsidies, they disappear as soon as the funding does. EV battery plants are pretty good example of that. Sometimes, actually, they just disappear anyway after taking all of your money. Real careers come from projects that generate wealth, not bet on fantasies and burn taxpayer cash. Build major projects, such as what? What exactly? Can you name a single one that isn't currently blocked by your own federal government's laws? Announcements are certainly not construction. And last I checked, oops, there's still nothing. Empower Canadians, he says, with what? More debt, higher taxes, a even worse quality of life and fewer opportunities? Or is he just referring to the individuals hand-selected by his government of whom their projects will be approved because they align with them ideologically? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Importing record foreign workers, record immigrants, while 100,000 plus Canadians lose jobs in 2 months. Interesting. Safer neighborhoods. Oh, really? What policy did you change? None? Got it. Stronger economy. Well, actually, all of the investment fleeing is certainly telling a different story. And we already mentioned the job losses. Because again, strength doesn't come from subsidies, Mr. Carney. No, it does not. It comes from investment, which Canada is actively chasing away. But don't you worry, guys, because Mark Carney's, he's going to take over absolutely everything. Yeah, they're going to build compassionate housing now.
We won't just build houses. We will build housing that's compassionate, that's competitive, that's climate friendly, and above all, that's Canadian.
Call me crazy, but the last thing I want is a house that's climate friendly. Preferably, I want it to be the most unfriendly thing to the climate so that I stay warm in the winter and I stay cool in the summer and my house doesn't just wash away in the rain. I would really prefer it to be anything but climate friendly. I want it to be safe, actually. Safe, strong, durable, with good resale value.
The last week has seen a real effort to be able to do that. What do you think is the impetus behind that?
Honestly, there's no secret sauce here. It is putting out policy and having a press conference and having the federal Liberals respond. This is happening at the same time that the Liberals, their communication frankly sucks.
And speaking of politicians who are just so disconnected from reality, we have Doug Ford. If you can't find a job, if you're struggling, it's your fault. It's not all of the 3 million plus immigrants in our country that have been imported in recent years. No. It's your fault. You're just not trying hard enough.
We need to match the people up with the jobs. It may not always be in the area that they want or the sector they want, but we have to start picking up productivity. And it drives me nuts when I see young, healthy people, and they'll call me up, saying, I can't find a job. I can assure you, if you look hard enough, it may not be, maybe be in fast food or something else, but you'll find a job.
Hey, you're totally right, Mr. Ford. I'm so sorry for complaining. It is my fault. The statistics must be wrong that fast food is actually one of the highest rising categories for temporary foreign workers. Hey, I'm just as shocked as you are that Tim Hortons can't find anybody who's Canadian to work an entry-level job at $56,000 a year. They got to find one from India, of all places. Wild.
I believe that once Mr. Carney lays out the true facts of what we're facing as a nation with the difficulties with the United States, that even the most hardcore environmentalist is going to understand and realize that there are going to have to be concessions made all over the place in order to make sure that we have an economy at the other end of this conflict that we're having. When I listen to them now, David, what I take away from it is, oh my gosh, how much trouble are we really in? Because it's beginning to sound pretty problematic in terms of what we're facing vis-a-vis the United States. The stakes are indeed very high. And the pain may be coming that we're not anticipating. And I think that perhaps what the Prime Minister will have to do at this caucus meeting is just to lay it out all to bear and go from there. And as Cameron said, have a united caucus going in. If I could just say one thing about Pierre Poilievre and what he said, the reason why Pierre is able to say these things is because Mr. Carney took the position and made the decision to not introduce a budget back in June. So there's a vacuum. And as a result, Pierre gets to come out and talk about all these things.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment. You can follow me on other social media platforms as well, and share the video so we can help wake up even more Canadians. I'm Jasmine Lane, and I will talk to you tomorrow.